All right, fifth graders, well, we are moving right along here in chapter 5, getting into lesson 2, where the directions tell us to estimate the product. And just a couple of rules that we're going to be reviewing throughout this video. First of all of the numbers that we round, we are going to round to what we call the greatest place value. That is not a new term. The greatest place value, remember, is the place all the way to the left. Everything else after that place becomes a 0. We also want to remind ourselves of the rounding rules. 5 and higher, we will round up. 4 and less, we will round down. And remember, when we round down, the number stays the same. So, estimate the product. 4 and 97 hundredths times 8. Well, the 4 is what's in the greatest place value, because that is what is way to the left. So I look at the 9 to tell me what to do. This is 5 or higher, so I'm going to round up. So my 4 becomes a 5. Everything else after the 5 will become a 0. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put arrows. You'll remember this when we added and subtracted with estimating decimals back in chapter 3. So if I want to, I can just put 5. Some of you might be more comfortable adding the decimal and the 2 zeros. Really doesn't matter. This is a one-digit number. One-digit numbers stay the same. I'll repeat that again. One-digit numbers stay the same. So I'm going to multiply that by 8. Now, if I'm thinking, well, 5 times 8, I know that's going to be 40. My final answer is 40. Now, if I wanted to, and I was doing 500 times 8, 5 times 8 is 40. Add the 2 zeros, 2 numbers after the decimal in the problem, which means 2 numbers need to come after the decimal in the answer. So I get 40.00, which is 40 and 0 hundredths. I still just get 40. This is what you will be writing. Your worksheet will give you the problem. You will have to insert the arrows, rewrite the new problem with the new product and answer. You did that when we added and subtracted. The difference is this today is multiplication. Next one, 9 and 3 hundredths times 32. Well, I'm going to look at the 9. The 0 is going to tell me what to do with the 9. That's going to mean to round down. Now remember, round down does not mean make the 9 an 8. Round down means keep the 9 a 9. Now if I want to, I can put 9.00. But as Mr. Swack has said before, I personally, the less we write, the less likely I believe that we will make a mistake and get confused. We showed the example of what you can do up here. I'm not going to keep doing that on these other examples throughout the video. I'll mention it. You can put 9.00, but it can also just be 9. 32, well, it's the 3 in the greatest place value. The 2 tells me what to do. Once again, the 2 tells me to round down, which means keep the 3 a 3. The 2 becomes a 0. So this becomes times 30. Well, so I do 9 times 30. Now I apologize. These place values are not lined up. Technically, I should have that 9 over there, because without the decimals, these place values should be lined up. But I can just use my zeros tricks, so it's not overly important here. I'm thinking 3 times 9. Well, that's 27. I have a 0 here at the end of my number, so I have to put that in part of my answer. The estimated answer is 270. I go to my next one, 45 and 67 hundredths times 9. Well, I know that this is a one-digit number, so my 9 is going to stay the same. Okay, one-digit numbers stay the same. 45 and 67 hundredths. Well, it's the 4 that's way to the left, so the 5 is going to tell me what to do. Remember the rule, 5 and higher, I round up. So this 4 is going to become a 5. That's going to become a 0, which means I'm going to end up with 50. Now this 0 before the decimal is very important. That has to be there. If I don't want to add the decimal 0, 0, I don't have to. I can, but I can just leave it as 50. 50 times 9, well, 5 times 9 is 45. I add the 0 on for my zeros trick at the end of my number. I end up with 450. Couple more. 234.9 or 234 9/10 times 48. Well, the 2 is what's way to the left. The 3 is telling me what to do. 4 and less, I round down, which remember, that does not mean make the 2 a 1. That means keep the 2 a 2. That has to become a 0. That has to become a 0. Which means that I have to include them in my answer. Then I'm going to put on 0.0, okay? I can, if I want to, put 0.0. I get 234.9, but I do have to put those zeros before the decimal. Times 48, I go to the 8. The 8 tells me what to do with the 4. It's going to tell me to round up because 5 and higher, I round up. The 4 becomes a 5. I have to include that 0, so that's going to be times 50. I use my zeros trick. 2 times 5 is 10. I need to add the 1, 2, 3 zeros that come at the end of my answer. 1, 2, 3. I can go backwards. 1, 2, 3. And then I can put a comma there to separate my 3 zeros. All right, we will go on to this last one. 25 and 693 thousandths times 427. All right, this 2 is what's way to the left. The 5 is going to tell me what to do. The 5 tells me to round up. 5 and higher, I round up. So that 2 is going to become a 3. That's going to become a 0 before my decimal. Okay, so I have to include that 0. So we put that in. And then I'm thinking, well, okay, now if I want to, I can add 0.000, but it's not necessary. But I do need to get that 0 in for the 5. Since that became a 3, the 5 told me to round up. 427, I go to the 4. The 2 is telling me what to do. The 2 tells me to round down. And just a final reminder, rounding down does not mean that the 4 becomes a 3. Rounding down means that the 4 stays a 4. So it's times, that becomes a 4. These 2 come before a decimal. So I need to have my zeros. Once again, I apologize. These place values are not really lined up. But since we're doing our zeros trick, Mr. Swack's going to cheat just a little bit and pretend that it doesn't matter. Because 3 times 4 is 12. And then I add my 1, 2, 3 decimals. 3 zeros after the decimal. 1, 2, 3. I end up with 12,000. All right, so talk to you later, 5th grade. That is estimating the product. Bye.